order. Just for the audio recording, everyone, all the committee members are here except for Curtis Adams.
Correct.
And also in attendance is Paul Sorensen, Blaine, and Brian. We don't have any public to comment, so we'll bounce over that one. This is a continuation of our early June meeting because we didn't get very far. You know, and I certainly understand. No one likes the process of increasing rates. Not any fun, but I do appreciate the amount of work that many members put in, thinking it through and analyzing stuff and so forth. And we have the results of some of that analysis in front of us with Ryan and JJ, both, I don't know, kind of remotely collaborating. Is that a short statement?
Sure.
Brian had done the initial work, and rather than reinvent the wheel and make it more difficult, I just decided to go with the same format with a different rate.
And
then I
the
had
blue stuff is highlighted. That's your input.
that's my input.
And the green
is a I just put it both on one sheet. I put Ryan's and I put my proposed increases.
So both of these are the proposals.
Yes.
Right, and then the light green is the one that Chris gave us on both sheets. They mirror each other.
Does anybody have any questions about this, the resource material that we're using here? Appreciate Paul being here because he can give us some background and information. If we have any questions, he's already presented to this group a couple of times at least. But are there any questions of him at this point? We had one general question that I tend to agree with, and that was that, you know, we had this long list of comparable, you know, other marinas throughout Puget Sound and so forth. And the suggestion was made that maybe we need to focus on the northern Puget Sound marinas and stuff. I thought that was a good idea because they're really our closest comparables, and they're the people that are kind of in the mix as far as sharing tenants and so forth.
Yeah, Ken, what I just thought that when it comes especially to comparing rates, I think it's just not logical to put us in the same category as Seattle, Des Moines, Everett,
Right.
Edmonds. You know, those guys can command much better rates than we can because their location.
Let me just jump in on that. That's the reason we use the median rather than the average. The median, if you've got a distribution, it kind of says 50 above, 50 below. So you're in the mix. And the rates that I saw that were the high ones, of course, Elliott Bay, you know, I think they raised rates 23% or something this last year. And Shell Shoal's way, they used to be neck and neck. Edmonds also had a 12% jump. But you're seeing rates in Cap Sandy, in Anacortes Marina that are really close to what Everett rates and some of the Edmonds rates.
Yeah.
So that's the competition. Building on that, my point on this from the perspective of whether you move forward with it or not is that it costs a lot of money to build these things.
Oh, yeah.
And the money's got to come from somewhere, and over 75% of the revenue comes from rates, mortgage rates. So, you know, there's no way to get around it. Then it becomes a question of how much the city takes on and how much the owners take on, the boat owners. What I was trying to do is weave a path where you're so far below too.
Mhm.
You know, looking, if you guys have a chance to just look at one of the slides that I put in here, it's a new slide, page 8 of my presentation, that compares you with
Rate trend annual increase,
Yeah.
50-foot open
for a
slip.
50-foot open slip, yeah. Number 8 down here. that one there. Not that one. Must be. Yeah, this one right here. So it's this rate, it's this slide right here. And what it shows is that for the first 5 years of the last decade, you had 0% increase. And you made a decision to do that. And all the time, all of these other marinas had 2% to 6% rate increases. And then you look at when you started raising rates again, you were not out of the ordinary with what the others did. Even the rate that you had in 2022 was lower than all the other of these three. And if you look at what they did in 2023, you're getting farther and farther behind where you need to be in order to build a marina. And from my perspective.
I listen to your argument and I chuckle and I this time I chuckled out loud. But I look at the Edmonds, Capsani, Squalicum Harbor, okay? Three very, very unique and different marinas to the Oak Harbor Marina. You know, Edmonds is right in the middle of downtown Edmonds, throwing an awful lot of money in there from the city of Edmonds. No, where's that money coming from?
From the port.
Oh, from the port, I'm sorry. It's coming
But
from,
I'll tell
it's
you,
coming from a taxing agency.
now they
Revenue
have
generating.
a $10 to $15 million job to rebuild their seawall. They're not going to get probably any.
Who's
money
gonna
from
pay for that?
The port.
Again, a taxing / revenue generating agency that we do not have, okay? Cap Sandy has made it, since Bob Hyde was on the port district there, they've made it their goal to be the premier marina in the Pacific Northwest. And you can see how they're doing it. They're spending it with the docks and everything that goes along with it. And they, the restaurants, all the short, where they are is perfect for them to do exactly what they need to do. And Squalicum Harbor in the middle of Bellingham is just not like Oak Harbor. So,
But see, don't you think when you have that argument, here's the way I look at it. It costs more probably to build a marina here, much more per slip here than in any of those other three options. Because they don't have to do the dredging, quite as much dredging. Squalicum right now, we're working on a project for them. They have quite a bit of dredging.
They have to
in the
dredge,
inner harbor,
yeah.
but not the amounts that you have. And then just the construction. They're closer to the equipment. They have other sources. So
No doubt
if you
about it.
want to have a marina, it's going to cost you a lot of money to build it here.
Exactly.
That's my
But
perspective.
I agree. I agree that it's gonna cost more to build. It's gonna cost a lot to keep this marina here. But is it the responsibility of the tenants to do that?
Well, traditionally it has been.
No.
We've been an enterprise fund since the beginning, and that was always interpreted as every nickel that goes into that marina has got to come from the tenants, whether it's upland storage or in the water, whatever. And we worked for a long time.
Very long time.
To turn the curve around so that we were revenue positive in terms of building up some reserves, because we do, deferred maintenance and a lot of stuff we'd like to do on our wish list that costs money. So, yeah, it is an apples and oranges comparison to a certain extent, but I feel strongly that we still need to have that kind of enterprise fund mentality to the extent of funding operations.
I don't disagree in any way.
Yeah, the city,
I completely.
citizenry at large and so forth, they're not going to be amenable to a situation where they're helping to pay for our mortgage. But
Right, nor should they, and
it's the capital part of it.
Yeah.
It's always the capital part and the fact that it says right on the sign that it's a marine park.
Yeah.
And and I agree. I completely agree with everything you said. We do need to maintain, the fact that this is an enterprise fund and the marina tenants are paying for the upkeep of the marina.
I mean, the
Upkeep
basic.
and daily operations, but
Daily
capital
operations,
improvements.
Capital improvements, we're not gonna
Yeah.
raise our way into funding those projects. It isn't gonna
Absolutely,
happen.
you're absolutely right.
So why do, we don't want to, I don't wanna say we don't wanna scare people away, we don't wanna raise them away from the marina. And granted, I know there's not a lot of places to go, but if you have a smaller boat, there are places to go with a
Yeah,
smaller
but
boat.
we're trying to figure out where that line is.
Right, I'm not sure where that
And
is.
that's always the problem in pricing and so forth. I will say that the city has made significant efforts to acquire, some grant funds and so forth from a variety of sources. And it takes a little while to get that thing going. And then you have to deal with the criteria that the grantors are using. They want something shovel ready, which is almost impossible to do until you know what you can do with a shovel full, that kind of thing. But that's a new element, and we appreciate it.
That would never happen.
Yeah, never
Not since I've been on this committee.
So I think we're on the beginning of that path, and Chris and I were having a conversation about maybe we should be focusing on a 1-year rate adjustment increase, whatever you want to call it, right now, and then see what happens. Because I don't know what's going to happen. We would be sending a signal to people that we're moving closer to the market, which is, we live in a capitalist country, so the market still drives pricing on virtually everything you could think of. But you have to have the customer, their ability to pay in mind. And we have a weird, as Paul has pointed out to us, we have 70% or more
77%.
of our tenants are in the Cookville and Oak Harbor zip
Island County.
And that's unusual.
Yeah.
Some of it has to do with their slip makeup and a lot of other things, but so we understand that is a price sensitive population too.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing that goes along with maybe doing a 1 or a 2 year increase, and I think what we have to consider is inflation rate.
Mhm.
And that just came out, the new number just came out yesterday. It's still at 4%. CPI is still at 4%, and it's been higher than that for the whole last year. So from the last time that we raised rates, just to keep up with what that rate was then, we have to raise at least, I would say, 5%.
Well, it's even, I don't want to defeat my own argument, but you're right, it's not just 4%, it's 4% year over year.
Year over
month
year.
to month.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
and last year was 9%.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
so it's about 13%.
I'm just looking at your numbers here. That's going to put us behind.
Well, the
At
CPI
at
does,
5%.
the CPI does not accurately reflect construction costs. Steel, concrete, all that kind of stuff. Actually, the inflation rate there is much higher
Much higher.
than,
Yeah.
the 4%
Yeah.
in general.
But I'm just talking about what people
Yeah.
they can pay, what it means to.
So, we all know this stuff. We've been sitting around this table or various tables talking about this stuff for quite some time. So I don't think there's a lot of new stuff here. The issue is it's kind of a gut check as far as what do we feel the market will allow us to charge to get to a point where we're contributing to the reserves, building, a nest egg, if you will, for the stuff that we know is going to happen because the marina just keeps getting older and older and older. And yeah, hopefully we will be successful. Using the collective, we will be successful in these grant attempts and so forth, particularly as it is focused on dredging and so forth, because that's a big ticket item. But having said that, even if we hit home runs on all those dredging related grant things, we still have to maintain the place.
Mhm.
And Chris, when was the last time you had to cut and pay for your staff.
Yeah, yeah, it's been rough sometimes, but I think Ken's exactly right. The target is building up the reserves for the dredging that we know we have to do sooner than later. And as you build up those reserves, you're paying more to save later because it'll result in a smaller bond. Say that we continue in this mode, it'll be a smaller bond at a lower interest rate versus say $3 or $4 million bond at a much higher interest rate. So it's either we pay now the mortgage to the marina to the city, and the city benefits 100% of those dollars, or we get a bond later and the city funds are discounted by the percentage of the interest rate. So that's really a tough decision.
Yeah, the city has supported us by allowing us to use general obligation bonds to fund past improvements. They're not revenue bonds. If they did, we'd be paying a lot more in rate. So when we refinanced, and David Goldman did us a real favor.
That was a home run.
When we refinanced the tail end of the existing bond and got, it's less than 1%, isn't it? 90 basis points.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, it was pretty low.
We got as a rate, and we were paying over 4. Well, we have to pay it off a little faster, so it takes the amortization is a little different. So that's an element that we need to address too, because our revenue
But a
stream,
huge savings, so.
yeah, overall, but not
Overall.
right now,
Not right now.
because it affects our operating budget and so forth. So anyway, somewhere in this diagram,
I think we all agree that there needs to be a rate increase of some sort. I don't think that that's a point we're not gonna argue. The question is, are we gonna live with, or I can't support the fact that we're looking at 12 to 14% increases in certain categories. I couldn't live with that. I think that would be like if I'm renting a house somewhere and the landlord says in the next 3 years, your rent's gonna go up 42%. I'm gonna find somewhere else to go. I'm absolutely gonna find somewhere else to go. And so, so we need to decide what the increase needs to be, whether it's in the short term, a 1 or 2 year report, or spread over 3 or 4, perhaps 4 years. And also, do we want to increase certain categories like covered mortgage? Do we want to increase them more than others? I think these are all, points we need to come to some sort of recommendation on.
Yeah, in the past, historically, we've used that 80% number to kind of reflect the lack of amenities that.
Yeah, but that's still, that's
Whatever.
a real
But it's
arbitrary
just,
number.
yeah, it is. But it kind of works in terms of the marketability of a slip in our marina. Right now, we're blessed because there's a shortage of slips throughout Puget Sound. Blessed. It's a curse and a blessing. It's
Yes.
a blessing at the same time. That's not going to change in the short term because there are no new marinas
Yeah,
on the
that's right.
horizon. Not
That's true.
one.
Mhm.
And boating is still changing, still growing and so forth. Not as fast as it was in the, whatever, early 90s, I guess. But up until fairly recently. So we have to price also, understanding that there's these curves and dips in the market that may influence what we're able to get. So what I started doing was I took some of the median numbers that Paul had used and this was just my own chicken scratches and figured out what 80% of those numbers would be, 80% of the median. So I was just pulling it out of the air and so forth. And it didn't come out too far off from the numbers that are used in some of the rate comparisons and recommendations, that sort of thing. So what I'm hoping for is some sort of a motion, something we can action on in this group that will provide guidance for Chris and his troops to move on and do the detail work and the pricing. Is that an unfair statement to make?
No.
So what we're looking for is we want to either come up with a percentage that we think we should increase. So in the short term or in over a phased period of time.
You know, I don't care. It's just, we know we have to do something right now. We're late.
Yeah.
And
Really
so whatever we do, we're trying to catch up. And if we get hung up on the, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever kind of scenario, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. And we just dial it back into a 1 year. What can we do for 1 year and see what happens? So that was my.
Yeah, the risk of that is we'll probably be late 1 year from now too.
Well, we'd have to
Yeah.
recalibrate the scale and go from, June to June or something. And, that.
I think you'd be much better off with at least 2 years, maybe
2 or
probably
3.
3. And Ryan, I'd like to add, when your proposal here, basically it comes out, the total rate increase is identical to what was proposed, and you're just shuffling, making
Yeah,
it more.
so when I looked at the original one, other than just picking an arbitrary rate, I wanted to see what was Chris trying to get to with their annual, additional annual revenue. So that's what I calculated first. And I said, okay, so how could we not tell somebody that they're gonna get a 12.5 or a 14% increase and still be able to get somewhere close to that same revenue? And so I put the formulas in there. Yeah, the total
revenues
yearly
are identical.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
And so I distributed it between 9, 10, and 11% because the CPI down in Seattle last year was 9%. So I think if we're gonna play catch up some, 9 and 10% for the smaller boats, 11% for the bigger boats, isn't that big of a pill to
Yeah,
sell.
no, I agree.
And ultimately, the revenue stays pretty close to the same as what you were trying to raise initially. Now, the smaller boats could say, well, we're out of here. But like when you look at the rate increase on a 24-foot boat, it's $18 a month, right? So $20 a month. Like that's not that big of a jump for anybody to come up with an extra $20. So I don't really know that would be. I mean, the original proposed one was $15.43, so you're asking for like an extra $5,
So the proposed increases based on the monthly rate are these starts at 7.5.
Yeah, so the light green is what Chris had came up with.
Yeah, Ryan's are in the dark.
Oh, the dark.
Yeah, Chris's.
And no like.
See that, yeah, and when I looked at this and I said, that's why it prompted me to come up with another spreadsheet, was when I looked at the overall number of slips in the 24, 28, and 32 foot range, that's that's almost 65% of the slips in the marina, or it's higher than that. So let's say it's 70%. My guess is that you're right in the fact that, you said it's like an 18 or 22. At the most, it would be a $32 increase at 10.9%. That's a lot of slips. We could, if in fact, I might even be persuaded to go even more on those slips because it is a smaller amount over a period of time. You see what I mean? It's more than
One thing that we
somewhere else.
discovered back in whatever it was, the 80s, made some significant increases in the small boat thing. We ended up with a whole bunch of vacancies.
Yeah, because they could
could
put them on and
put 'em
make
out
their
on
own
the
trail.
water.
Right, that's right.
And so we tried to facilitate the small boat category to stay in the water. And, that's where the trailer storage on the parking lot thing, a lot of stuff came from. I'm not saying that it was right or wrong, it was just our attempt at that time to solve that particular problem, because an empty slip doesn't give us anything.
Right.
You're
So I think,
Empty slip doesn't generate any revenue.
yeah, and there's not a lot of headaches, you know, as far as tenants go or anything, but it's counterproductive as far as the, you know, total revenue goes. So it
No.
looks to me like, well, can you explain the rest
Sure.
of, you know, your proposal?
Yeah, so the mortgage total is the new monthly total. The proposed increase is a 9% based off last year's, and then the dollar amount increase is what it comes to. Then I took the mortgage total times the number of occupied slips. I just assumed that they were all gonna stay the same. I know those numbers have changed, but I just went off of that. Multiplied that out to get our monthly revenue, and then the additional revenue that it would bring in from monthly, then the yearly revenue, then the yearly additional revenue.
I like it because you're using our actual slip configuration.
Yeah.
We have not where we'd like to be, but where we are.
Yeah, I like it too. And now, Chris, is the small boats, we basically fill all the small boat slips during summer, during the crabbing season, right?
We fill the 24s year round. For
Okay.
9 months, it's
Well, that's good,
$55.
yeah, because we have the winter, yeah.
The 28s, we fill about 3 months out of the year. Otherwise, they're probably at about 50% occupancy, I would say,
Okay.
roughly.
And a lot of times we're putting smaller boats into the 28-foot slips.
But
just
we're-
because.
But we're charging them the 28-foot rate.
Yeah,
And
it's
they're-
the
and they're
it's the
okay
length
with
or
that.
the slip size,
Yeah,
whichever is
yeah.
larger.
Now, what if we increase the length of, in other words, shortened the small boat contract thing? So it seems to me that if you require a boat to be in there, say for 6 months at such and such a rate,
Mhm.
they're like, if there's a demand for that, then they're gonna stay there for 6 months. They're gonna-
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We've never tried to alter it since we.
It's always seemed to me that you're actually
It's
asking
12 months
for.
of the year.
No, the contract is for 9 months of the
Oh,
year.
I'm sorry, not-
The small
Yeah.
boat contract. So it seems to me that we should be able to get more of the full rate mortgage from those folks. if
Shorten
we-
it.
If we shorten that down, it
Yeah,
just
and
seems
the
like,
fact of the matter is, if your boat is here in Oak Harbor and you want to crab out here.
Yeah.
You don't want to drive to Anacortes and bring your boat.
Yeah,
back,
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
whatever. And that's a valid factor because, you know, if you have your boat at Cap Sandy, whatever, nice facility, great facility, got a lot of amenities and all that sort of thing, but you got to drive there.
I mean, could we require that a minimum amount of mortgage is 6 months?
Yeah, they could, we would just alter the terms of the contract
Uh,
to, instead of 9 months, 6 months, maybe November through
No,
April.
no, I'm talking about if you want summer mortgage for your 28-foot boat.
Oh, we don't have a problem filling that.
I see what you mean.
But
I see
no,
where
but
you're
you might,
going.
you might have a problem filling that if it was for
Yeah.
6 months rather than for
Yeah.
3 months.
I
Right.
see where you're going. It's almost like if you want to go to Roach Harbor for the 4th of July,
Yeah.
you gotta
Yeah,
go
yeah,
Memorial,
yeah, yeah.
you gotta go every year and you gotta have Memorial Day and you gotta have
Yeah.
Labor Day
Yeah,
and you have to stay for X amount of days. That kind of makes
So
sense.
make a minimum length.
So a minimum mortgage of 6 months.
That sounds reasonable to me.
But that's still a drop in the bucket.
Well,
No,
but
everything is a
it
drop in the
keeps,
bucket.
but it
does,
keeps people from, I think, keeps
From
from going.
Because you could, like you say, you could work those numbers a little bit, so maybe the percentage increase, the percentage increase is a little less, but you're ultimately, by changing the terms, recouping some of that money.
You have a small boat in the marina.
Yeah.
It would make.
Well, I pay year round anyway.
Yeah,
And I do that so that I can keep my,
that's right, yeah.
winter mortgage.
A lot of that
you know?
time, there's no boat in that.
That's right.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
them that are that way, where they're not in the slip, but they're up on
Yeah,
the fence line.
but that's exactly the reason I pay year round is so that I don't lose the winter mortgage.
Well, I agree that we can do some stuff to massage the small boat contract and maybe do something about the fee for storing along the fence line.
This $55 is
It's
Yeah.
pretty cheap.
Real-
Yeah.
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 And a lot of places, well, I think Des Moines is one where they have, if you store a boat in your storage shed, it's at one rate. And if you use it for all your household crap, it's another rate.
Right.
Or you're running a business out of it, or whatever. And I know they did that in Port Townsend for a while too, where they would not allow any non-boating tenants. So, if somebody's parking a car inside, they say, you got leave. But that was part of the port thing there. Anyway, so there's plenty of precedent for that sort of thing, but,
We'll have to see how the new storage center affects our storage business as well.
and
It's they have a lot of storage up there on the highway.
Well, the rate proposal covered all the areas, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It did. And what we got hung up on kind of the last meeting was the 14.1%, 12.8%, 12.5% for those big boats. It seemed like a pretty substantial jump. If we did 1 year, hey, we got a 12% jump because we're gonna catch up, that would be okay. But like if you're gonna do 12%, 12 or 14%, 14%, that becomes a really difficult pill to swallow. I thought that was just a little bit much. And I was trying to, with at least my proposal, I was trying to come up with, hey, how can we just redistribute these numbers and ultimately end up at the same finish line?
Actually, I really like your thing.
So yours was a 4-year phase in rather than a 3-year.
Well,
So I did the 3 years, and then because looking at what Paul had for the bigger boats, like the 50 and 60 foot boats, maybe, you, instead of giving them a big one, you can give them just a little smaller bump on that 4th year as we follow back into just normal inflation,
Mhm.
not playing catch up, but our normal rate increase. So that's what that 4th year was. That was not based on anything. I just said, okay, traditionally we've done 4% or 3%. So I did what would 4 and 8% look like? What would 4 and 6% look like? I was just,
so this is theoretically
Yeah.
2026 on
Yeah.
on the backside.
Yeah. So I almost didn't want to include that because I was just trying to see what a normal year then after that would be. So don't take that last year as any type of proposal from me.
I think 3 years makes sense. Sounds to me like there's a lot of uncertainty. And you really have to figure out how much all this is going to cost anyway, which will happen over the next several months. At least some of the costs
What costs?
from of rebuilding the marina
Okay,
Dredging.
now
and dredging.
I talked to a few people about marina rates and marina rate increases just recently, as early as today. And I said, well, how do you feel about a rate increase? And everybody scoffs at a rate increase, but everybody universally said, you know what, I don't mind paying more if I know I'm going to get more, or we're going to be able to see some tangible improvements to the material condition of the marina.
how about seeing Marina in 10 years?
Well, I'm not going to worry about seeing a marina in 10 years. Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably not either.
So, but realistically,
Some
you know,
people
if I go to my neighbors out there or the people I know that I boat with, and I say, your rates are going to go up 11% next year, or whatever, 11, yeah,
So
10 or
you're arguing
11%.
it should be like an 80% increase so we can front load all this?
No,
While you're still alive?
no, well, no, well, that's what it's nice to for me to think about that. No, but I'm gonna say, you know what, you're gonna pay more, but Chris is gonna be able to do this, this, and this,
Right.
with that extra revenue. That's what you have to, that's
I
how you have to
understand,
sell.
I understand where you're coming from, but we all also understand that because the age of the marina, it takes more
Yeah, of course it
just
takes
to keep
more.
it floating
Of course it takes more.
and there.
And I mean, I've been in the marina 23 years now.
Yeah.
I understand, you know, what it takes to do this. And
Try 40 years.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, between you and I, over 60 years in the marina. And so,
I am still here.
yeah.
So the pain here is you're playing catch up. I've done this
Yeah.
conversation with
Right.
utilities.
Oh, yeah.
It's not uncommon for water and sewer utilities, for council to not to want to raise the rates and to go, and then all of a sudden they do their market analysis and see a 50% increase, and the ratepayers will always tell you, I'd rather see the threes and the threes. And a lot of times if you look on it, it's 3%, it's a 49 they're looking at, but it's because they never raised it for 10 years. And if you amortize it, it comes out to 3% per year over time, but they get behind on the issue. So it's a pain in catching up. But I'll say it again, I'll say it again, I'll say it again. One thing that Paul's made it clear, and we'll make it clear to council, we can't rate this out of it, and we're not trying to.
No.
We're trying to market this out of it. We're trying to get you to the market rate. We're not looking at this and looking at the cost and how it does. We're trying to get a competitive rate where we're not going to lose business. And we're clearly recognizing that we're going to have to subsidize it. And that's a new thing for the council, a new thing for the funding. They've never looked for the grant funding before. And you've got ARPA funding, the first grant funding you ever had probably that I know of. And that we're seriously looking at it. I mean, we lobbied for 2.3 million today. Lobbied for 5 million before, looking at that, so we're aggressively looking at other options and looking at that this has to be a partnership. The city to keep this marina open. And we've got 4 major problems here. I mean, dredging is one thing you're talking about, but we got Paul's number of 20 million for redevelopment of the marina. We got a breakwater and we got a channel that has to come in. So we got 4 things that we've kind of played deferred maintenance on and should have been more aggressively on renewing it and looking at it. And then you have a history of rates that have been too low.
So even if you just looking at the 3-year plan, the yearly additional revenue over the 3 years only comes out to, even if we did this, right, only comes out to 459,000, so 460,000 bucks. So like that's not enough to cover all that, you know what I mean? So
Not enough to do hardly anything. And that's why I did a flat rate, less
right.
proposal for everybody to look at. So when you can look at the difference in yearly revenue between the first year one on your plan at 9-11% was what, $138,000 at 5% across the board, which I just took a shot at that, and I can adjust those numbers. That yearly additional was $65,000. So it's hardly much of anything, but it is $65,000. So and realistically, what I should have started at was a number that I was more comfortable with, which was 7.5% across the board starting in 2023, and 7.5% in 2024, and 7.5% in 2025. And that number, and I'm sorry I didn't bring that with me. I could plug in the numbers real quick, but it's similar to yours. It's very close to what you have in terms of revenue. And I think 7.5% is a number that I am comfortable with, that I think that most people would not balk at. Because when you start talking about 10% or more, it has an emotional, it has an emotional sting attached to it.
In that scenario, what would we, if we were magically able to reconfigure the islands
Right.
down there and add more larger slips, at what rate would those people come in?
Well, I think that would be a great question that we could study at a different time, but I don't know. I would think that, you would think that they would come in at the prevailing rate.
Like what Byron said, I think we're still behind.
Yeah, we know we're behind, but let's just say, for example, just give me a second. If we could magically find a way to take the roofs off of B-Dock and put one side, the side that's on the other side of that's closest to C-Dock, put that in angled slips where you could put a 45-foot boat in. You'd probably give up a half a dozen slips, but you may be able to get 45-foot boats on an angle.
There's not enough fairway, but
Well, there's enough fairway. If the boats are at an angle, you can do that.
And you'd have to back out.
You have to back out. You'd have to back out.
Powerboat.
I back my
Well-
powerboat all the time. But that's exactly how you'd have to do it. It would be a bow in and you'd back out. You'd back out down the fairway. But you could do that. And, you know, in the absence of another slip, you know, or any other 45 or 50 foot slip.
Have to have more insurance.
Training people how to.
Oh, you little
And
fans,
the breath-
people.
the breathalyzer test.
Yeah. Those are.
Well, But JJ, what I'm saying, even, now I made a proposal under 7.5% across the board too, but really, when you look at inflation, you're getting behind from year one of that, if you're looking at inflation.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're already way behind. Why would you do something and get yourself more behind next year?
Well, 10%, we're still behind at 10%.
Well,
We're
we're
still,
less behind.
we're less behind, we're 2.5%
Yeah.
less behind.
Yeah.
Sometimes less behind is all you
That's it. But I'm saying, as I was saying, 7.5% is a number that I think people will swallow a lot easier. And it provides some additional extra revenue. And,
It doesn't do anything to our imbalance and slip sizes.
no, we can't fix that.
Yeah,
Well, no, I
can't
mean,
fix that.
I'm sorry, the rates that we charge for bigger
Right.
boat slips are way below, I mean, dramatically below the market. And it starts at what, 40-foot slips, or, well, a little bit,
30,
mostly,
even the little ones are below.
yeah. But it gets more divergent when we get to bigger.
Yeah,
bigger
it
boats.
So that's what-
increases.
But in our situation, there's not that many. In the Oak Harbor Marina situation, it's only 7 50-foot slips and 24-foot, 60-foot slips.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
the
We have to create some more slips and
Right.
maybe, you know, your suggestion about doing something, with, you know, having people back out of their slips. But,
hey, I've been lots of places where they ask you
oh, yeah,
back
yeah, I
down
know,
the fairway.
so I've seen people do the upper boat thing for all
Yeah,
afternoon.
that's not
that
fun
kind of
either.
thing.
You know, another option that I've seen happen, Point Roberts as an example did this, is they had trouble filling some of their smaller slips and they just took them off and make it side time.
No, that's
We
what
can't
You
do it.
lose a
talked
lot
about.
of
Yeah,
moorage
we've
that
talked
way,
about that
but
for
at least
years.
you'd be 100%
You'd
full
be
at a
full,
higher
that's right.
rate.
And
Yeah.
but we, unfortunately, we have roofs, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, you
Yeah.
can't just take the roofs off or we should have taken them off when we were gonna do it as a self-help project. Now, remember, you remember that.
So
discussion.
I'll share with you guys that as we work through the dredging process and we're looking at mitigation efforts, the roofs are a target, as well as doing what Paul just suggested, taking some of the fingers off the docks and making them
And side
side tie
ties.
areas.
Mhm.
Those are great mitigation because it removes some of the creosote pile, removes the shading. So that's
But it
not
also
too
costs
far out of the realm of possibility and something that is really in the bullseye target coming down the path.
Well, I mean,
Have you thought at all with Muff and Nickel about when this all might happen in terms of the dredging and the rebuild? They kind of look at,
yeah.
from my sense, and from yours probably too, it's, you've got existing marina, and then you're gonna start making some
Yeah.
improvements, dredging, and
Right.
then phase 1, phase
How
2,
do you
phase
do
3.
that?
And how does that come in, and then how do rates pop when you do that? We looked at the Des Moines example, we said, we're gonna increase you to a higher rate right now. But when it's a new facility, you're paying market rate, and that's King County market rate for bigger slips. So I think you have to start thinking about how that all goes forward. And it's probably important to think about a 3-year term, because
Yeah.
some of this would be happening within 3 years.
Absolutely, as we talk, go ahead.
One of the reasons that I did the percent like I did, because if we do lose, because there are significantly more number of smaller boats, if we lose some of those boats and we end up doing something like that, hey, let's pull off the side ties and make bigger, or pull off the fingers and do side ties, make bigger slips, and we've only increased the bigger boat prices a little bit, like you're not gonna recoup your loss.
Right.
So that's why I was I still think 14 is way up there. 11's not too much below it, but
What I was thinking is you guys are so far behind. Those 5 years where you didn't increase at all, and also thinking that of the average of the marinas you chose, you would have pegged yourself at 80% of them. It's almost like it was a doomed kind of way of looking at it. You would never have enough revenue under that scenario to be able to do the rebuild. So this, from my perspective, this really is an existential thing in terms of how much money the city can come up with and then the rest of it. And, realistically, what are there, 30,000 people in the city?
24/7.
25,000 people, and there's 400 slips and 200 of them are with people from Oak Harbor. Having the city pay for a lot of this stuff is something that you should think through.
I think
Can I
we,
make a motion?
Sure.
I move that we accept Brian's proposal.
Okay, are you saying
In
that?
total for 3 years, the 3 year.
for the three,
For the 3
the
years.
fourth one was
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
supposed to be.
this only shows the uncovered mortgage, so
Oh,
we need
well,
to,
yeah.
but we
No,
could,
Yeah,
It was across the board, right?
It was, so I
across the board.
added covered and uncovered together because that's what you had done on your slips.
so
So
for example, in the
We'd have to
28s, it would
interpolate
be
that.
7.1% for covered and it's the same. It doesn't matter if it's covered or
That's
uncovered.
right.
So
Yeah.
right.
I didn't
In
understand.
terms of the increase.
Yeah.
So the other items that are on here, you're just going with Chris's recommendation then? Or did you cover
No,
all
this
the
was- This
items?
was across the board.
This is just for mortgage,
For
but we
more,
have,
it's not
Just
for
for
the
more.
storage
We
shed
were
and
only
that kind of
talking
stuff.
about-
Yeah, yeah.
The mortgage was the only thing we got hung up on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you agree upon the other items.
Sure.
All right.
this big list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was nothing really objectionable.
So Ryan, you've
Just-
got both open and covered in here,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that's at the bottom line here.
Yeah, so I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers, but let's say there was for the 28-foot, there's 106 total, so there's 50 covered and 56 uncovered. I just
Okay.
added them together to make 106 total slips.
So the
That's-
mortgage
that's what
total
you
then
had
is
done.
a weighted average of the open and covered?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, the devil's in the details, so we'll discover that.
It should,
Yeah.
should we look at breaking out the covered slips and adding I think the
I don't
increase is
think
high
yet.
enough as it is,
Yeah,
Right.
I don't, well. I
if
don't
we
know.
adopt this.
If we,
Recommend this.
I've been in some of these mitigation discussions before when if you have done something already and you think you're gonna get a pat on the back, you don't. They say, I don't care what you did yesterday.
You need to bank it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need to hold out with, everything we
Mhm, mhm.
and then say.
It's
"Oh,
all
okay,
coverage,
well,
it's coverage of the
The seabed.
tide, the seabed. So if you start pulling off roofs now, you're not gonna be able to trade that for a different.
Oh, I understand completely. I think those roofs need to go completely because it gives Chris a whole lot more options
Yep.
in what to do at the marina. And it gives us more options when we can come up with things for Chris to do at the marina. If the roofs are gone.
Covered storage is like, for me, it's a real boon.
Sure it is.
I pay a premium for it.
Mhm.
Just one more thought that I've got on this too, with the small boats, they do have an option.
Yeah.
And I think being able to count on not having any erosion from them is probably optimistic.
Right.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying that if we had for the small boats in particular, if we had a 6-month minimum mortgage, most of those small boats want to be here for the summertime. They're gonna go, and if you make them be here for 6 months in the summertime,
They've got a good deal right now.
Yeah.
They really do. So that combination, Everett was doing that as well in water and then storage up there, trying to even out the rate.
Okay,
And it
so
helped
we
them
have-
keep some of the
So
smaller
there-
boats.
There's
just
people that-
procedurally, we have a motion on the floor.
yeah, no, I'm not trying to submit.
That needs a second if we're
Yeah.
gonna continue with the discussion, so.
Can I ask
I
one
can
question?
second the motion.
So it's been moved and seconded, so now we can officially have further.
Now we
discussion.
can talk.
So, but you're absolutely right with the small boats, because I have a lot of people I work with over on base that wait, like they wait
Sure.
it out till they can get there for the
For the 3 months.
the
yeah,
3 month
yeah,
crabbing,
Yeah,
and they want that slip, and they don't want to, like, they watch.
yeah.
Are they filling up? Are they filling up?
Yeah.
Okay, I want one. I want one.
Yeah,
And so that's what they wrote
yeah,
down.
make them stay there for 6 months.
Okay.
Is it worth making this a little bit easier to swallow by doing the pay for 11, get 12? Or are we gonna make that go away?
Your recommendation was for 5%.
I would recommend you get away with, you would do away with it completely if you're gonna lower the rates.
Well, I
Paul-
know what your recommendation was, but what is our recommendation?
Yeah, Paul, I was using the same argument there, is, some people, if they think that, if they know they can get their slip back, they'll go cruising for 3 months in the summertime, give up their slip and then get it back. I think there's some benefit to an annual mortgage
Yes,
package,
I agree.
whatever the incentive is, whether it's 1 less month or whether it's,
Half a
you know,
month
or
or whatever
whatever.
turns out to
I
be.
think there's an advantage to that, just to keep people from
I agree,
leaving during the summertime.
So that would apply to the small boats or to the larger
Yeah,
boats?
It's anybody who signs a yearly contract.
A yearly, yeah,
Yearly
yeah.
deal.
Do we know how many that is relative
It's
small
probably
versus large?
75% of the, oh, you mean in
Large
comparison?
boats, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the more larger boats, but.
Well,
if
there
you-
really isn't an option for the bigger boats, right?
Well, yeah, they
Yeah,
can,
there
yeah,
is.
they
Yeah.
can leave in the summertime, and we've had boats do this.
Where would they
leave
go
for-
though?
They
Oh, cruising.
cruise, they're
They cruise.
cruising, they're going up to Alaska, and they
then come back
vacate
and
their
do
slip, and they
monthly-
and
they
they
can
come
come
back
back
and
and
they
they
take
have a
their
slip
chances that
available,
there's
you know?
Yeah,
But that's not a very big portion of them, is it?
No.
No, it's not a huge, it's not,
But there are some that.
There are
Yeah,
some
some
that
do
are
it every year.
yeah, do it every
Stuff
year.
like that.
That's right.
They gotta have a lot of time on their hands. Mess with those guys.
You know, this is gonna be reinvestigated when we figure out from Moffett Nickel how much it's gonna cost to do it, and we have to look at it. So I'm afraid that we're kind of tying our arms behind our back as we move into that. And
What, by offering a yearly deal?
By discounting and then offering an annual decrease, and it's just more of the same, really. That would be my recommendation.
Well, I don't necessarily agree. I think if you're gonna commit to paying for 12 months, for being in the marina for the next year, you gotta get some discount, whether it
And then,
doesn't have to be a whole month, it can be half a month or a month.
would it make sense to alter it somewhat, to instead of spreading it out over the months payment, require the payment up front?
Most people aren't gonna do that. Most people aren't gonna come up with.
Especially, yeah, it has to be more than 5%.
Yeah, it would have to be worth a lot to me
Yeah,
to tie up my money
yeah,
for that period of
Well,
time.
another way to look at it would be, you sign a 1-year contract, and if you leave early,
or die.
whatever.
Yeah, your state
you pay a
pays it,
premium.
yeah, right.
You pay a
Yeah,
premium.
well, a premium, you pay the whole thing.
Yeah, you pay the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the way it's written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you die. or
And in
go
case,
to sea.
well,
Yeah.
it's dock law. You never know what the hell you're gonna be doing.
Yeah.
3-4
Yeah.
Well, I was serious about that, I was thinking about having some sort of penalty in
A death penalty?
there. Well, I would put it that way.
Well, can we
If
get,
you die, you don't care.
that's right. The devil is always in the details here, but we do have a motion that's been seconded. Do we want to continue the discussion about whether we think that there should be a promotion? Let's just not call it discount, call it promotion if you sign a yearly deal.
Okay, I think it would be slightly procedurally a little bit easier, maybe easier on Chris if we acted on the motion and then.
I
got
agree,
into the
I
reserve
agree with that.
stuff.
All right.
That's
So-
why I asked that.
So the motion, as I understand it, is to accept the rate structure that,
The 9, 10, 10.9, 11.5, 11%
yeah,
increase.
that's the
In the
2023, actually for 3 years.
For the
right?
3
For
years.
3
yeah.
years.
Okay, everybody understand the motion?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All those in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed, nay? No opposed? Okay.
What?
Yeah.
You know I'm a reasonable person.
I think it's the first time you voted for an increase.
Yeah, I've always voted for increases. appropriate increases.
Okay, we do, some housekeeping things, transient moorings. Is anybody against charging like $1.50 in the summertime?
Not at all, when you see, when everybody else is charging, you know,
Yeah.
for almost nothing.
In Canada, it's $2.50, it's in
Yeah.
Canadian dollars, but it's still.
It was three, what did we pay up in Deer Harbor, 3.25 a foot?
Yeah, I could look, it was, poof.
It was ridiculous for Deer Harbor.
I looked at that, I thought that seemed low as me, but,
I think we should charge $2 a foot for transient moorage.
yeah, in the summertime.
In the
especially,
summertime.
yeah. I think so too. 'Cause
At a minimum, $2 a foot, plus whatever you charge for electricity, Chris.
That's on the high side, but
False
you know,
chicken is-
boy, if you want to try and get away with it, that's good. You know, you've got yacht clubs and you're giving them a discount, right?
No,
Number of
No.
people, no?
no.
Well, yeah, okay. And a Cordis is what, for,
Yeah, 325 a foot.
that's what Deer
Deer
Harbor.
Harbor,
charges.
325 foot.
Yeah.
And that was with a yacht club discount, because when we showed up.
We got, I got
they
money back,
discounted
that's
it.
right, I got money back.
Yeah, that 180, I thought was awfully low.
$2 a foot would be.
$2 a foot?
$2
And then
a foot.
escalated each year by a quarter. Moving it up to 250 in the third year.
I can't imagine, because right now, Roach Harbor was over $4 a foot.
How hard,
Does that just incentivize the people that come in, only buy fuel and then leave?
you're gonna have that anyway,
I don't know,
think.
people are gonna come here, if they want fuel, they're gonna come here for fuel, if they wanna come and spend the night and hoof it the safe way, they're gonna do that.
Okay.
So,
So if we
That
can.
was-
so how often is all the transient moorage taken up?
After the 4th of July, or
Pretty much
once the
every
sun
weekend.
comes up, if the sun was out now and there was no wind, we would be almost full, almost.
But it's
every
almost,
day.
time.
it's only 9 slips
So
we're talking
what's,
about,
what's
right?
the
No.
pricing?
No, there's more.
No,
What's
there's
the
15
pricing
out there.
we have
15.
during the hydro event?
The pricing for the hydro event, I think, is at 250 a foot right now.
That was the premium, that was the.
Yeah, yeah. So
special
that'll be
event
adjusted
premium.
according to this.
Special event
Yeah.
premium.
So I was just trying to put it in.
It was
context.
hydros and wasn't it a 4th of July rate, Chris, too,
Mhm,
and all that stuff?
Yep.
So we have to.
Heck, you can't get to the regular 4th of July.
Stop it.
Ah,
Thanks,
yes, you are.
Okay, so transient moorage, I'm hearing $2 for the summer months?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's June, July, August, or what?
Everybody else starts Mother's Day. They go to their summer
May.
rate, May 12th or whatever it was, they start their summer rates, you know, the early second
May
week
to
of
the end of
second week
September.
of May till the end of September.
Okay. All right. Let's just remember that, and we'll try to cover a few of these things in one month. Storage sheds were actually a little bit ahead of Anacortes is the only one, looks like. And the recommendation is for, move up to 80 cents, you know, it's about 15 cents a foot, square foot more, and 5% increases thereafter.
Say that one more time, please.
It's, the initial increase would be 15 cents a square foot and 5% per year on the out
Yeah,
years.
the initial was 20%, then 5.
So they would go from 151 to 176 in 23, 184.79 in 24, and 194.03 in 25. That's still way cheaper than the market.
Have you seen a rate for the U-Haul place?
I have not. They've said, I actually had a guy come in and talk to me yesterday who
There's one
wants to
section
rent a
sheet.
shed. And he told me that U-Haul was going to undercut everybody but us, was their pricing strategy. Yeah.
Well, you know, they do have heated storage there.
Yeah.
Part of that building is heated. So,
And the roads probably don't leak.
you
Well,
saying
that's-
our roofs sweat, they don't.
Oh,
leak.
Chris, it's
They perspire.
90% non-boating and 10% boating.
I would say that's about a basic
I
ratio.
would think you should maybe get that, you get two rates. Charge a higher rate for the non-boaters.
You wanted to give some incentive there for people that are Words, that's a
Yeah.
good way to do
Yeah.
it.
More
Do
stuff you
the,
can
do the
work out.
discount, like when you
Des
say
Moines
non-boats,
does that?
like if they have a
Do a
slip, they
Yeah,
get
Des
a
Moines does
discount.
it.
If they have a
Yeah.
slip, they get a discount on the shed. Yeah, that sounds very reasonable.
How much of a discount on the shed do you give them if they have a slip?
None.
None.
We
It's the
should-
same
we
price
should
for
give them a
everybody.
slip. We should give them. a
Yeah,
discount.
Well,
absolutely.
not increase them as much.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's the incentive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these are really
Take away your children.
not
Yeah,
expensive.
these are not,
They're not expensive.
and we're talking about pennies and dimes here. It's not gonna make or break us. So Chris, what other direction do you need as far as parking along fence line?
No, we just went with the recommended rates there. That's increasing.
What about
We've got one liveaboard member here, but
Yeah, we do.
what about the liveaboard?
90% increase.
Maybe 100. Depends upon.
Maybe 100.
So what was the proposal?
For the liveaboard, it's going from 69.55 to 90.42 to 103.98 to 114.37. So that represents 30%, then 15, then 10. It's still
That's a big chunk.
very inexpensive. For your water, sewer, and garbage, how much do you guys pay? Well, you guys don't live in the city, right?
Ours is about 225 minimum.
For me and my wife, it's $225 a month.
Well, we still,
Yeah.
you know, we still own the old mailer house, so we know what it is. You know, we still own that.
So that's essentially what the liveaboard.
So it's going in, so from, what is it now, 102?
No, 16 is currently 69.55.
Yeah, it would
Oh,
go,
I'm
it would
looking
go
at the-
from
never mind.
69.55 to 102.02.
No,
I-
to
I'm looking- I
90.42.
was looking at the wrong page.
90.42.
Yeah, Chris redid it from my schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the right amount, right?
Yeah, I didn't correct this.
Oh, okay,
I
yeah.
put it in here. but-
So if you look at page 41 of 42,
And there you're only, we're down to how many liveaboards now?
approximately 20, 22, somewhere in there.
Is that the last page?
Yeah. Next one. At the very, very bottom, it shows
You know, my opinion on liveaboards is they serve a tremendous purpose, and they really help out the marina a lot, because there's an extra set of eyes down there all the time. There are people looking out for boats, there are people retying boats.
We're not talking
Moving along.
way above.
No, but I'm saying, but making a 30% increase in the first year is a lot, in my estimation.
I think that we're so underpriced in that category if you compare to other marinas, that
You know, I.
we're still a great value. In a sense, we're subsidizing that.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want to do that
Yeah,
any longer.
that's right. And I think, you know, present company accepted, there are some liveaboards that are a bit on the shady side, I think. And you'd kind of like,
Especially me, right?
you'd kind of like to discourage those people.
Well, I mean, are we not accepting any more liveaboards?
We're not at this time now.
Well,
I
you
think we're
want,
trying to get comfortable that whatever the level stabilizes at.
Yeah.
so ideally you want the liveaboards, kind of like JJ said, that help out,
Yeah.
that keep an eye out and do all that other
They
stuff.
do.
You don't want,
They just do.
and that live on the water because they enjoy boating.
Yeah.
There's two types of liveaboards. You
Yeah.
have liveaboards that live on the water
Yeah.
because they enjoy boating and being around the marina and the water. And then
it's
you
cheap
have some
rent.
because it's a cheap rent.
Yeah.
And then those are the ones that typically become the derelict boats. And I think that sea trial, like as many people that bellyache and moan about it, like that has helped get rid of some of that.
Yeah.
If we could do that for the
You can get under-
stationary boats that are becoming reefs, that would free up more slips.
Stay tuned.
Well, unless I can get the DOCWA thing figured out, I'm gonna get killed by the lake feed.
Well, that's how we're making up the extra money.
So I think we're all in, are we all okay with the second page there, or the extras, so to speak?
Yep.
You know, one thing can I add just one thing, maybe we should bring it up at a different time, but
You know, one thing that really came up every time, I talked to a bunch of people about rate increases. And every single person, and none of them live aboard, said, we gotta get a pump out back in a mobile pump out back to the marina.
You know, we brought that in after we stopped doing it, and because people had to pay for it, they would rather go over to the fuel dock.
Well,
So, and I
That's
mean,
not
the
what I'm
company,
hearing.
but we did it. We know.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
think the vendor was sort of the stopping point, you know, they were
Oh, yeah.
willing to come into the marina for a handful of people that would pay for pump outs.
But in order, so again, when you talk about the ones that actually live there, you're a handful of people, 20 boats. And then a few of them that come in that instead of going over there, they might like, hey, pump my boat out. It's not real profitable for, like, it's not a moneymaker
no.
for an outside enterprise, but for a city that has, like, if you already have the boat and the ability to do it, just running around to do that, it's just a service that you're providing. You're not gonna see,
yeah.
it's actually gonna be a cost, but it's
Yeah.
like, what
It's
kind of-
16 man
It
hours.
was a substantial cost.
Right,
Yeah.
it takes two people.
Takes at least two people, and it pulled those two people off
Well,
of
and
doing
why- it takes two
docking.
people, it takes one guy running the fecal freak in
Mhm.
Port, in Roach Harbor.
And Friday Harbor too, they
Yeah.
come around to
It's
us.
one guy, they do it, you don't even know they're there, you know, it's, I just think we really need to do that, you know,
I can tell you that the marina is not interested in restarting that program. That's a non-starter for
Well, you
me.
know,
Well, or we could search for a vendor.
You can search for a vendor,
It's
but you're
be-
gonna,
the
yeah,
price is gonna, like if you tell
Nobody
me you can
wanted to pay,
$60
You
We're
an
not
have to
hour
gonna
to
have
pump out.
enough people to make it work. There's
Or
gonna
I
be a
can
study
just
on that
spend
right
an
now.
hour to
San
do
Juan
it.
Islands are where the real problem is.
well, the problem is everywhere because there's no discharge.
yeah.
You know, and-
No, it's not just getting rid of it. It's being able to have enough customers that when you float in to make it worth your while to do it.
It's like I thought it would be a cool retirement gig for me to do, but it's just too much. It's just too much. No, but no, really, I thought of all different types of stuff, like a little shuttle that ran from,
Now, there's
From
a
the
good
marina
option.
to-
Yeah.
Get a bike, little Surrey in the back.
run a touch
Actually, we discussed that back in the day, and I have had an initial 2 conversations with Todd, the transit guy.
Todd Morrow.
Todd Morrow, nice guy. And he's trying to figure out how they make, now that they're doing Sunday service, because that was one of the hurdles, was they weren't offering Saturday or Sunday, I think.
No, the buses were running on Saturday. I think.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think so.
they
Just
were.
Sunday they added.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been before me, but
Yeah.
since I've been here, they've always done Saturday.
Yeah, back in the Trish Rose era, they started, she didn't want anybody on the buses. But, yeah, now that it's Saturday and Sunday, we've got a shot. So, I just asked him if he would figure out how to do that. And I did talk to him about how in some communities, that service is subsidized by usually the grocery stores
Yeah.
and liquor stores.
Yeah.
We don't have, separate liquor stores, but, the people that need resupply want to be able to do that without pedaling a bicycle and stuff.
Hummingbird bus.
And it's, yeah,
Yeah.
and there were always a bunch of roadblocks in doing that. And so they incorporated it into you could phone in to their communication center, and the route that went by the college would come down into the marina and pick you up and so forth. And it kind of worked, except it was part of that route that goes all the way around. I mean, it takes an hour. and a
Took you
half.
up Regatta and then back down.
To get where you're trying to go, if you're trying to go to a grocery store or something.
We haven't really talked about it, but we're actually working on a program for that because we're
Oh.
purchasing a shuttle and we'll have it next year. And
Oh,
the
good.
thought is that we'll probably maybe just keep it down the marina for the marina staff
Oh.
to use as some kind of
That's
shuttle
nice to know.
program. And then we'll be using it for like recreation camps and different things like that.
That's
Senior travel programs
That
and
would be nice.
There's my retirement, I could drive the bus.
What can we
Right,
do?
it's right.
Can we do anything to facilitate what you're planning?
stuff. Ken's already approved it. It's already in the works.
Oh, okay.
What,
Back on the-
can I go back one more second? Why isn't the marina willing to consider having a boat mounted pump out?
We have it. We have the equipment
I
to
know
do
that.
it.
I know that.
It
You got a
took-
grant to do it.
Yeah, it's not about the money in this case. It takes two people
Why
off of
does it
Dock
take two
Mountain.
people?
The size of the boat.
But you're doing it in November, December, January, February, and our fairways are pretty narrow. You're lucky not to bounce in and off of boats. So, we did it for years and years. And
Well, not years and years.
we actually did it for over 8 years, JJ. So
Let's see.
I have the documentation to prove that
Over
if you'd
8
like to.
years?
Over 8 years, we did that. So we have a lot of time invested in that.
Well,
Plus
you
all the fixed.
dismantled the boat, right? You took the pump, didn't you take the,
The pump is on wheels. It's on cart.
yeah, okay.
And we're always working on that equipment.
I
It
would,
became too much. way too
from
much.
somebody that, and I agree, in the wintertime, it's,
Yeah.
you need pumped out and it's difficult to get
Yeah.
over to the pump out. I wish we had, and especially some of the people that do use it, I wish we had a 4-wheel cart instead of a 2-wheel cart. I've seen those and like I said, it makes it a lot easier than trying to use
Yeah.
the 2-wheel cart that's gonna tip over, especially going down. You gotta time it with the tide almost, otherwise you got a flying bomb.
Yeah. Us doing it is really not
Well, I
a
mean,
direction we
the
want to go.
alternative
But there are
is-
some
the al-
alternatives.
The alternative is to pump out at every slip, at every finger with the long hoses.
And that could be part of the redesign
Right.
that we're looking
Well,
at.
it would have to be almost because
Yeah, we
people
need to-
must expect that now.
And you could almost get a grant for that, right? For the
Oh, yeah,
watertight deal.
you could. It doesn't make sense to do it at our marina right now, but
Can we
Yeah,
get back
right.
to the rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting a little tangent. So
I like that.
I would let it run for a little while, but you're right.
I have one more proposal, and that, the annual mortgage again. I'm gonna propose, I guess I can make a motion that we do annual mortgage with a half-month credit. That's gonna make it a little.
About 5%.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you pay it monthly, but you sign up annually.
And
And you're,
rate is,
you're obligated for
Yeah.
annual.
yes.
Okay, I'll second that one, because I
And
think there
second.
needs to, we need to do something for our current tenants
Yeah.
that are willing to stay.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we have a 12-month for 11 months.
11 and a half.
11 and a half months.
Yeah.
Is that clear there?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's gotta be clear to Chris, because he's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Do you have any comment on that, Chris, as far as implementation?
No, I don't at this time.
Do you do
All
the
those-
credit in the 12th month, or do you do it,
You spread it out
You
over
spread
the
it out
year.
over the term of the
what
1
if they
year.
pull out?
They can't. They're locked in
They're
for the
obligated for a
year.
year. They
They're-
sign an
yeah.
annual contract.
But what if they didn't pay?
Then we go after them in
You go after them.
collections.
Chains and knives, and sticks.
We,
Turn around.
we've had very few people skip out on the yearly contract over the years, but that's what we've done is put them in collections, and sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't.
Because you could put it in the 12th month, that's too complicated for you.
Let's,
Yeah.
Okay, so the proposal is this year-long contract, 11 and a half months for 12. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Passes again. Very good. Do you need any votes on anything else that we've been talking about? or-
No. I think that you guys about have it all covered in a roundabout way.
Have they voted on all the rest of them?
Oh, you didn't vote on this, the non-mortgage marine
Oh, then,
fees.
then I move that we approve the non-mortgage marina rate increase as submitted by Chris.
It's not
Second.
mortgage.
It's non-mortgage.
Like the-
Storage sheds.
Storage
sheds.
Oh, okay,
Non-mortgage.
okay, gotcha. All right. Okay,
And so these are 3 years too?
3 years.
Yeah. You know, we've included gas and diesel in here. Aren't we gonna do that as a separate deal? Aren't we gonna look at that?
We need to do
Yeah,
gas and
so
diesel
I'm gonna amend
separately.
my motion to approve the non-mortgage rate
Non-fuel.
increase with the exception of diesel and gasoline.
All those in favor?
And
Aye.
Okay. That's unanimous.
So diesel and gasoline, the current markup is 65 cents. The proposed markup in 23 is 70 cents, 76 cents in 24, and 82 cents in 25, representing about a 3%, 8% increase.
Yeah, I think we-
Yeah, we need to look at what our actual
Mhm.
costs are. And,
We should be able to, with the deal we got on fuel, we should be able to still offer some pretty attractive prices.
Right.
But we
Yeah.
gotta get paid
For
for
the,
the help.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So my contrary issue is your most of your money is people that are already there that aren't going to go somewhere else to get gas. Your little bit of revenue is coming from people that are transient, that are coming and filling up. Then you're really just giving a discounted rate to the local people that are already there. So I know it's been a long tradition to do that low rate, but
That's what we're looking to
Yeah.
change.
We're trying to, yeah.
Just
Right now,
establishing some kind of a normal markup that covers our costs, and it doesn't matter whether you're transient or a tenant or whatever. We're making a little money on
it
this.
appears that we're doing it for roughly our
so,
cost.
so does that get closer to what Paul suggested then?
Paul suggested 8%. They're suggesting going higher than 8%.
Do we want to go with the 8%?
And that's a
Yeah.
methodology percentage, right? That fluctuates with our purchase.
That's
So
right.
we base it off our
Right.
costs, right? It's
Right.
not a
Yeah,
static
the
that
cost is
Right.
the basis, and then we put an overhead on.
Right, yeah.
So what would you estimate the average overhead is?
It's different for every marina, really, in terms of how it's approached and how far people have
Yeah, I
to go
think,
into it.
yeah, Chris, you should be able to come up with something for how much staff time is involved there. Can't you with
Yeah,
how much staff time it takes to pump 1,000 gallons of fuel or something?
we know it's 10 gallons a minute, so I could calculate that. But it
But then,
might,
if they're out at FDOC, I mean, you gotta throw in some of those. other
it's a
factors, you know?
15-minute walk, and is
Yeah.
it me pumping it, or is it one of
Yeah.
our summer help
Yeah,
guys?
yeah,
You know?
but you should be able to come up with a pretty good estimate of that.
I can try to do that. What we might want to do tonight is make a motion to accept the rates as they are, and then we can revisit that in September, October timeframe. Because I don't think that we're going to get there today, and I don't think we would get there at the next
Yeah, right,
meeting.
yeah, okay.
It could be something we look at next
So
winter.
do we even need a motion to leave the fuel rates the way they are?
Well, you could amend your amended motion.
No,
Or we could not vote on the other motion?
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
what-
yeah.
I thought what we were talking about was going with the recommended increase.
Yeah,
Go with the recommended increase for now and then revisit it.
but,
this
but
fall.
yeah, I don't think we should make it for 3 years.
No.
This
No,
one.
no.
Just until further notice.
Yeah, right.
Well, this is an easier one to adjust.
It's very easy to
Oh, yeah.
adjust this one.
Okay, so we're going to address the motion.
So now we could just go back to the, and
Go back to the
go back to the
original.
original motion, which is accept the proposed non-mortgage
Sure.
miscellaneous rates as submitted by Chris.
Okay, and a second to that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ed Reed. July and August, we normally don't meet. Anybody have comments or issues about that as far as the agenda going forward? I think we just solved the majority of the problem. Actually, we created a bunch of
We
problems.
created a bunch of
for
problems.
But these probably won't be enacted until September timeframe, maybe even October. We'll see
Yeah,
how that
that's right.
goes.
We have to deal with the city council.
So I have a question with that. This is our 3-year plan rate increase, and we kind of touched on it a little bit last time. You you go to city council, it takes a while. It takes till September, October before the 2023 is enacted. Then in January, we're gonna hit it again, or can we push that off a little bit before this summer season? You know what I mean? Like it's a
Yeah.
3-year plan from when it's enacted. So give tenants kind of a time to adjust to their rate before we hit them again with another one. Because that's gonna be the
Yeah.
one that,
Yeah,
like,
it's
you may
always-
keep a lot of them this time with some grumblings, but you hit them again in another 4 months.
Yeah.
Then that's gonna be.
It's, so the rate
That's my
increase, yeah,
question.
yeah, the rate increases are hard to do, and timing is important. We obviously don't want to do them between May and even September unless we're forced to.
Right.
So we could potentially push them to April if we want to do one in 24 and then get on that cycle. For years and years, we were always on the April 1st cycle. It's always been my hope to go January 1st because the city does a grand master fee schedule update.
So we're gonna revisit that in April.
No, we would go
Go with the next increase.
September
Next-
to January.
Oh,
September through March and then put the 2024 rates in
So
April.
what people would do would be, they'd be
You wanna do it in
getting
January?
a 20% increase
Within
within
3
3 months. If
Or
this
we move
goes
to
into effect
January.
in October.
25.
6 months.
Six
And
months,
then,
six
yeah.
months, 6 months, 6 months, right.
Yeah,
It
well,
went to-
yeah,
it went
if
to
they go out to
April instead of,
Yeah.
instead of
Okay,
one
cross it.
January.
But you wanted one January.
One
so you did
January, it,
October,
I
November,
can-
December.
Well, we can always review what we've done. But we don't want to do that, but that's something that's always there. Decide that we want to change the timing of increases or whatever.
well, I mean, I think Chris's hands are tied with when the increase would go, because you've got to go through all the
No,
process, right?
it's the second.
The second
The
increase.
second-
is-
Second
that's where-
increase, right. If we went September, October through March, then April 1 to January, then we'd be on a really good cycle.
Well, well,
That's a
that-
lot.
Yeah, then you're,
That's a lot. That's 30% inside of 16 months.
yeah.
You can do like we do with rate increases and do a 6 months and a 6 month again to tear it in. And we do that with paying for rate increase. So he could do in April and September and just
September, then April.
tear it in 6 month increments.
I think the
But it
important,
would be zero until then, so for all of 2023, it's zero.
well, yeah, we don't want to do that.
He's not hitting it until September.
Hit the first one, September.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
Good.
And then what I'm talking about, you can do it in
6 months, yeah.
I know it's more work for you, but I mean, it's a way to.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know, Chris, I'm just bringing it up. You can
Yeah,
always-
yeah. Yeah, we can cross that bridge when we come to it.
It's more
Okay, for
work.
Okay. We know we're going to do September 1st, October 1st, and no sooner than April 1st.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll
Now, and
work.
that's just, that's a timing thing that we don't need to vote on. So,
Yeah.
Let's just leave it in Chris's hands and then we'll bug him about it as we go along. Okay. Good luck with the minutes. Anything else for the good of the order? Hopefully, very soon we'll have the long train back. Full out.
Yes, we're waiting for the tension cables and expecting them soon with the hope that it's going to be in place by, the state still hasn't announced the crabbing
I
season.
saw that.
However, I can tell you the reports I'm getting from the tribal opener is that it's not real good or not good. So I don't know if you guys have talked to him as
So
well.
great last year and then not good this year.
Is the meeting adjourned?
Overfishing. So, but they're finished the construction of the docks, right? All of that crew is gone.
Well,
They're over at
except for the
Keystone
tension.
now. They, as soon as those cables come in, then it's put it together and get it out in the water, put it together and they're
So
done.
is their work trailer still down
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
still
yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's good news.
That
there?
is
What happens
great.
with that? Because that's a choke point.
they'll take it away once they're done. And they need that as per their union contracts and stuff. So,
Okay, so what about July and August? Were you okay for not meeting during July and August unless we have something that need? Okay. Just
I always get our dock wad with us the day of the meeting anyway. So give it a break.
yeah. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for your patience and so forth. I'm not segregating you up, Paul, but thank you. Especially